What's up guys, it's Escaped Alien and welcome to the ship. So today we have the 7th Metazoo Monday, which occurred on July 14th, 2025. That would be 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Like usual, I am Pacific Standard Time, so that's what you're going to see here. And we had kind of a different Metazoo Monday here. We didn't have Charlie around. We had Ben and Bob. MGR / Mike Ryan also joined us. He's the lore writer, as well as a few of the artists. So we'll do what we usually do. Anyone that is considered Metazoo staff or part of the art team, we're going to go ahead and read any of the questions that they responded to along with their responses. So we had Ben start off the Metazoo Monday with, "At everyone, Metazoo Monday, let's start with a giveaway." And because this is after the fact, we're going to see who the giveaway winners are. And that was a New Jersey Collecticon non-holo promo. Congratulations to Metazoo Alex, Acerbic, Arbalist, and Everlast 007. They each got one of those cool promos. So let's go ahead and see. We got Bob saying, "Hey yo." Have Kelsey, "What all are we hoping to see on this fine Metazoo Monday?" Alright, so Bob asks, let's start off with a question for you. It's Take Your Cryptid to Work Day. Who are you bringing? And I was really expecting to see everybody say Escaped Alien, but you got things like Gumbaroo, Snipe, Yowie, Mothman. I said myself, gotta advocate for yourself. If you don't do it, who else is gonna do it for you? But yeah, just a little starter question there. We have Kate in the house. I just think they're neat, showing off some snipes. Pretty cute. Nice little meme. Ben says, you can shoot any Metazoo questions at myself / AnonymousBob, and if you have any lore-related questions, the talented MGR is here to answer. Feel free to tag him with them. Alright, so MacDZ23 says, Snollygaster for sure. AnonymousBob says, Snolly just needs some love, ... and pigs. Kelsey, I like to think the lab will let me have a few snipes running around helping out. That's right, I believe Kelsey is like a super smart person that works in an actual science lab. MGR, I dare say a snipe my job better than I do. Alright, and then I just want to give a shout out to TMX Comics. I know he's been dealing with a little bit of a health scare, so it looks like it's very likely going to turn out okay. So I just wanted to say that I'm very glad to hear that, TMX. We're all rooting for you, and we're all here if you need us. Alright, Maskcaster, everything great has a trilogy. Will we see another hunt before release? And Ben says yes. So it looks like you can expect Metazoo The Hunt Part 3 coming out sometime in the near future. Kelsey says, realistically though, I'm bringing in Paisa because he lives so close and can help me incinerate the biohazard waste. Alright, so Kelsey's putting Paisa Bird to work. Nice. Alright, Nutside Bucky asks, what can we expect at Richmond Con? And AnonymousBob says, lots of good vibes, convention packs, LTP, and expensive pizza. Expensive pizza, Is that like a theme of Richmond? Alright, Brad at GQL said Humple Dumple, responding to the bring your cryptid to work question, and Nate at GQL says, you beat me to it. A couple potato lovers there. MacDZ says, AnonymousBob, will you guys be coming to TCG Player anytime soon? AnonymousBob says, as soon as we cryptidly can. So this is actually a question that's been asked quite a bit. I definitely recommend, if you kind of have some of these questions that seem like they're like pretty generalized questions about the direction of the company, go ahead and check out the frequently asked questions in the Discord. It's a good chance that you are going to see an answer to these sorts of questions in there. But they still were able to answer, so it's kind of just a wait and see on the TCG Player side of things. Brad says, I mean, I was going to bring him so you and Shania could meet him, of course. So it looks like Brad has Humple Dumple at his disposal. James Jams says, AnonymousBob, for convention promos like the New Jersey JD promo, what happens to the remaining supply after a convention is over? And Bob responds with, they get destroyed at the end of the convention season. That is something that's been asked before. We've also heard that from Charlie. So you can expect that the convention promos that are not redeemed are going to get destroyed. And that's what you want to see. If you're supposed to go to some kind of exclusive event to get a specific card, then I agree with that. That should be a reward for the people who took the time to show up to that. Kate says, any cryptid that can help with painting or help me organize so I have less of a creative art mess? Might be an interesting question to answer in the comments. What cryptid do you think would help Kate organize her creative art mess? And Kelsey responds with mood. I think Snipe could hold a paintbrush in his tail hand just fine. That'd be an interesting sight. Masscaster asks, at Ben, at AnonymousBob, one spoiler for each aura to spoil us, ? And Ben says, wait for the hunt. 3 this week, so it looks like the aura spoilers will be in the hunt 3. James Jams had another question responded to, I'm thinking a sacred fire. What if we mess up and it becomes a cursed fire, says Bob. So TMX said Charlie Sherlocker. And Masscaster said, what day do we grab the Sherlock gear? And Ben says Wednesday. Alright, so we're all going to be mad at Ben if by Wednesday there's not Sherlocker gear. Alright, MacDeezy says, AnonymousBob, are we going to be getting some tournaments like regionals or towers? AnonymousBob says, organized play is right on the horizon. We have an awesome video on our Instagram and YouTube that will give you all of the details. And that is certainly true. The organized play video was super well done. Definitely recommend watching it if you haven't already. Spooky Molder responds to that original question Bob asks with, are there any cryptids that know Microsoft Excel? A lot of people just want to put the cryptids to work. Makes sense, you know? Life's hard. Alright, Masscaster, did I read somewhere that GQL has a focus on cardboard in-person play? AnonymousBob says, word is that you are already playing with cardboard in person. Masscaster, is my question misunderstood? AnonymousBob says the OP is coming out soon. GQL is separate from M2, but I am sure more news will be coming out at the right time. That's right, patience. Patience is important. California burrito. Alright, TMX says, why was CAC so awesome and how can I duplicate that feeling in food form? AnonymousBob says, I am still feeling the good vibes. It was so cool seeing everyone, then having a surprise sighting of @CryptidKeeper. Yeah, and I'm definitely jealous seeing all the pictures you guys are posting. Hopefully I can make it to a con relatively soon. MGR, a bit. Discussions are going on right now with some major retailers to carry it. More info to be determined. In the meantime, I'm writing the sequel. That's how good everyone is feeling about the chances of the first book finding a home. So it looks like Jersey Shore Devil. MGR, can you drop any more news on the children's book? So that was in response to the children's book. So it looks like he's already working on the second one. AnonymousBob says South Jersey / PA definitely needs to have a play group. So Kate says, I'm curious if we could have a channel for the fan artists to post, perhaps a monthly prompt or something could be fun. So the Discord does have a fan art channel. That was something that was created early on, but I think you have to go to the channel roles and follow the fan art channel. Definitely fun seeing everybody post in there. It's crazy how many talented people there are in the Metazoo community. But I really like the monthly prompt idea there. See everybody's interpretation on different cryptids and stuff. And I think you could do something fun with that. You know, like what would Mothman look like eating an ice cream cone or something like that. Alright, so Jersey Shore Devil has a follow-up question to Mike Ryan talking about the children's book. Will the children's book be packaged with a Metazoo promo card? MGR responds with, that is the discussion, yes. That would be cool. Some unique Metazoo promos. So Ben says our goal is to be at all of the Collecticons this year. So that's a pretty big little tidbit of information there. So Ben is saying that the goal is to be at all the Collecticons this year. So I'm assuming that means, you know, notwithstanding anything crazy happening, you are probably going to be safe to lean towards Metazoo being at pretty much all the Collecticons. Alright, Steve's Collectibles, loving all the spoilers so far. Are there going to be more alt cards in Torrential Tides? Any insight to the changes made for the box opening experience? Charlie touched on last Monday, or is that for us to find out? AnonymousBob responds to Steve's Collectibles with, thanks for enjoying the spoilers. We loaded up the Hunt version 3 with a lot of alt arts and fun. I can't comment on the changes made for the box opening experience, but I can say that I will think y'all will enjoy it. Bob says, who's ready for a spoiler? Well, let's see. MGR says, at Hospital Cowboy 1, the CEC continues to operate in the modern era, as Abraham will reveal in time. It also has some notable names in the past, as will be revealed in the story to be published tomorrow. The card that Blake used in Chapter 7 at the end of Act 1 was a variant of Cthulhu, and that card is driving plot element in the second act. And Bob drops the Mongolian Deathworm. How dope is that artwork? So it's not going to show the whole thing with the way that I'm recording this filming, but that says Mongolian Deathworm. This is by Tyler Ellis, and Tyler seems like a very talented artist. So really cool art style there. Definitely feels a lot more creepy. And it looks like this is the Gobi Desert in Mongolia. Deal 2 damage to a creature in this lane. That's the Vortex Pipe move, and it costs 1 fire aura that you have to expend. So, okay. 5 cost lightning. That's pretty interesting. It's a 5 cost lightning, but it costs a fire aura for influence. So Bob, looks like he's saying, run it with spark tokens and Middleman of Alabama. So Coolman W posted this picture, and I think this picture is super important. This is part of the organized play video. Like I said, if you haven't seen that video, definitely recommended. So there's going to be organized play packs for LGS support to run tournaments, and within those packs you can pull variations of different cards, and that goes for serialized cards too. So the cards that aren't blurry here, we have an out of 200, 175, 50, 25, 15, 10, 5, and there's even a 1 of 1. How freaking crazy is that? Alright, so MGR says, at Hospital Cowboy, the likelihood of Abraham's book, which is 1/3 done, to be combined and published is fairly high. The average novel runs about 90,000 words. Conjuring of Cryptids has surpassed 40,000. I expect book 1 to run about 95,000, and then I'll start book 2. Alright, I didn't know that. 90,000 words for the average novel. Interesting. Alright, so Masscaster asked, can we see the Jet Sam token? And Ben posted that. So this is artwork by Madeline Belwar. Wow, that's a really cool last name. So Jet Sam, it's an equipment token. That's kind of interesting. So if you haven't seen some of the other spoilers, I believe there was a spoiler that was associated with the equipment token. So that's something of note, but it looks like a 1 influence here, so I'll have to see how that combines with some of the other cards in the set. So Juicebox Drizzle asks, at Ben, any chance Ohio Grassman will make an appearance in Torrential Tides? Ben says, any cryptids mentioned in the hunt will be in Torrential Tides. That's also good to know. So for those of you playing the hunt, apparently any of the cryptids, whether spoiled or just mentioned, will be in Torrential Tides. Alright, Jersey Shore Devil, is Jet Yates Sheep Squatch now OOP? Heard it ran out at New Jersey Collecticon. It's OOP, but we do have more. If one of the volunteers runs out, we be sure to ask another. We all have them on us. Interesting. Okay. Spooky Babe saying, prompts would be amazing though, with the Kate Becker recommendation on the fan art. So maybe that's something you guys could get together on and create prompts for everybody to do fan art with. Alright, MGR says, there are indeed discussions about crossing the unique elements of the lore into future card sets. We'll hold a bit on an Abraham card. However, in the novel, he still has miles to go in his growth, so we wouldn't want to undercut his possibilities. And I think that makes a lot of sense. I think you want to tie your cards into your lore. I think it gives people a lot more respect for the characters that are on the cards. Set the course what he's writing in first person. Okay. Masscaster asks, will aura pairing stay the same with the next set? Ben says yes. So I believe what he's asking, or what he means by aura pairing, would be that the casters show what allied auras they can go with. And typically you'll see up to 2 allied colors that the casters are allowed to be matched with. So it looks like in Torrential Tides, we're going to see that pairing stay the same there. Bob said, if this post gets 25 lightning bolts, I will spoil a lightning caster. And guess what? It got 33 lightning bolts. And because we surpassed 25 lightning bolt reacts, we get Isabella Torres. Looks like the lightning caster here. And again, I know that it's cut off a little bit, but I'll just go ahead and tell you. So the allied colors for Isabella Torres appear to be fire and water. And there is a move, fully juiced. Each friendly lane has size limit +3. So that is a pretty gnarly caster there. Only costs 3 to cast as well. So going from a 5 lane limit to a 3 lane limit is pretty crazy. But it has to be a friendly lane. So I can already think of ways that that card can be used in gameplay. Alright, so MGR responds to Hospital Cowboy. I got the gig writing lore because, in part, I worked on the Weatherlight saga for Magic back in the late 90s. And that was a pretty epic story, complete with behind-the-scenes battles that ultimately led to its disastrous conclusion. My favorite part of the gig thus far has been the building a world slowly, a story at a time, always with an eye on the cards and future expansions, knowing that I'm revealing future spoilers that nobody recognizes yet. I absolutely love the world and possibilities. I like trying to write in different tones and styles. And yes, the day will come when I invite someone/someones from the community to work directly with me on a specific story or two so the world gets bigger. I'm after an epic cross Easter egg series of tie-ins, and I'll need the help at some stage. So that is really dope that Mike Ryan is considering bringing in somebody from the community to help him write the lore. Travis responded to the new caster with big lanes. Alright, Bob talking some strategy there, recommending cards that would work well with that. Ben doing mental calculations on the future meta of Metazoo. MGR says, Hospital Cowboy, I've actually just made a note about you. Your enthusiasm and eye for those Easter eggs makes you a good fit. We'll talk again, I assure you. Well, that's cool, Hospital Cowboy. Got a little shout out from MGR there. Alright, Juicebox Drizzle asks, any chance for binders to be released? Would love to get a master set into a fancy new binder. I agree, Juicebox, and binders have been discussed, and we are looking at all our options, says AnonymousBob. So it looks like they definitely have binders in the peripheral vision. James Jams says, LOL, yeah, I noticed it on base set, so I'm really curious what the water lady be doing. AnonymousBob says, like a water female caster? Question mark? Come on, Bobby. If this post gets 25 water aura likes, we can see what caster wants to hang out. And it looks like 26. And then Bob follows up with new terms, 25 likes and a picture of someone's dog. I will not budge. Bob is a tough negotiator, isn't he? But James Jams comes in clutch with a puppy dog. Very cute. Jersey Devil coming in with a puppy dog. TMX throwing 4 frogs out. That is incorrect, but nice try, TMX. We always love the effort. Jenna Narati IHC cards posts 2 cute puppies there. And then Bob says, okay, that's enough dogs. I don't feel like scrolling up. Let's do the honor system and say you got 25 likes. Alright, so what do we have here? We have Caitlin Cardoza. So this is art by Sonderflex Studio. The allied auras for Caitlin are going to be Earth and Lightning. And the move is Ice Cycle. Put a card from your hand on the bottom of your deck. If you do, draw 1 card. and it is a 4-cost, 6-influence caster. So that's pretty interesting. You're going to have card cycling. This is something that I kind of noticed in the base set gameplays. It seems like a lot of your deck does end up in your hand for a lot of these auras at the moment. So I really like the idea of there being a deck possibility where you can actually cycle the cards more. That will be definitely pretty interesting. And Kate posts a cute pupper. That one, I like that picture. Okay, MGR says, you all have no idea how lucky you are to have Bob instead of Charlie giving out spoilers tonight. Charlie gives them out like he's negotiating a hostage crisis. Bob gives them out like the guy who puts the bowl on the porch on Halloween with a sign saying, just take one, please. True, Bob is very generous with the spoilers. Kate says, amazing, realizing the cosplayers are going to have a field day. That is interesting. Yeah, like if we get to the point where we have cosplayers for the Metazoo casters. So Echo says, any upcoming casters in a similar art style as this? So you have the kind of classic watercolor art style there. And Bob says, no, there will not be a card with 2 casters with one of them being upside down. I told Bob that's the final straw. Unacceptable. See? Final straw. And some of these are not loading properly. Flex decks will get you where you want to be. I believe that was Termentic asking about whether or not we'll get Aura bricks to make building decks easier. That's true. Flex decks do come with 20 auras, 10 of 2 different colors. And if you get all the flex decks, you'll have all of the auras in a full set of 10 to build decks. So that is a good product if you haven't opened enough booster boxes to get auras. And if you need auras and you don't have them, hit me up. I'll send you auras. I want you to get playing, so if you need some auras, EA's got you. MGR says, last call for lore questions, or I make like an atom and split. Alright, AnonymousBob at 5:01 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, which is 8:01 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, says, okay family, Ben and I have to go back to work. Be on the lookout for the hunt, more spoilers, and find us at CAC near you. Kate says, thanks for chatting with us. MGR says, next Abraham chapter comes out a week from tomorrow, but tomorrow's standalone story has a solid tie-in. Don't miss it if you're reading the lore. And I'll put in the description of this video the Metazoo website where you can find the lore. Also check out the Metazoo website in general. There's just a lot of resources on there. You can look at all the cards and sort them by artists. It's got the rule book on there. It's a pretty well done website. Ben says, have a great week everyone. And MGR says, see you gang. Alright, and that is the conclusion of Metazoo Monday number 7. So as usual, I hope that I saved you some time. That was an hour worth of back and forth questions. Didn't have Charlie this time, but I do think it's cool that we're getting to see some of the other members of M2, GQL, the art team, the lore side, all these different people popping in, giving us some perspective from their angles and what they do at the company. And yeah, I'm just really looking forward to Torrential Tides. Looks like we have about 2 more weeks-ish, maybe 3 more weeks-ish, somewhere in that time frame. We are almost there, guys. We are almost to seeing the 5th aura in New Metazoo. So I appreciate it, as always. If you want to give this video a like, maybe comment some of the things that you thought were interesting in Metazoo Monday. Heck, maybe you can give Kate a prompt idea for what to do with the fan art channel, and that would be a fun community project. This has been Escaped Alien. I'll go ahead and drop you back off on Earth. Peace.